morning. I'm Ms Galloway, for those of you who might not know. And so I've had the privilege of serving as a chaperone for the first gen field trip last year. And we went to visit a few schools around kind of like the Dallas area. And this year we're going to go to San Antonio. As you can see, I will say Dr. Haney's done like a phenomenal job with the First Gen Alliance, and just ensuring that students kind of have that exposure and that access to tour colleges. And I will say that when we're on these trips, it's not just kind of like a tour and we walk around and stuff. We really do try to have space and time for students to reflect as far as like what it is that they really want to do once they leave Carnegie and what their plans are going to be. And I think also just a huge thanks to the PTO, for example. Our department used to do a lot of field trips and take students to a lot of fairs and stuff, but I think with a lot of the budget cuts and like departments being cut down tremendously, we haven't really had the opportunity to do a lot of that. And so I think we're just super thankful and appreciative, of the PTO, stepping in and really supporting students and a lot of the work that we do on campus pertaining to college access. So First Gen Alliance, it's a bunch of students actually who kind of come together and they're looking to kind of sort of expand the college access and opportunities that students are able to have. And so I kind of talked about it already, but as the college readiness department within HISD, as some of you guys know, I have Carnegie, DeBakey, and HSPVA. And so a lot of our department was our department was actually cut down tremendously. We went to having over 100 advisors, I think, to having a little over 50. So there are a lot of us who support a ton of other campuses. We also used to tour. We used to do a lot of fairs, do a lot of field trips. And so a lot of the things that we once did, we kind of don't do anymore. A lot of it is kind of like budgeting and things like that. And so I think I really appreciate how First Gen Alliance still tries to create opportunities for students to get that exposure, that access, and things like that. I think a lot of students I think they have to see it to believe it. And so when they're actually at these college campuses and they're touring and they're hearing presentations from admissions counselors or different program directors about a lot of the opportunities that they have for students to be successful on campuses, I think students really get excited about the college application process and they're kind of willing to they're excited because I know it's a lot. Once they hit their senior year, they're writing a lot of essays. But I think being on those trips and then being away from home, I think it kind of gets them excited and stuff like that. Is there another slide?
Ms. Galloway, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, there you
yay.
are.
Hey, I'm so glad it finally works. Okay, I heard a little bit of what you were saying, Ms. Galloway. Thank you very much for covering, and thank you for your patience with me. PTO, I don't know what, my microphone had been switched. The inanimates were out to get me. Um, I don't want to interrupt you, Ms. Galloway, if there was something else, but if you go back to, so if we could go back to the original slide, I very quickly, I know we just have a few minutes here, but on this first slide, this is a quick little survey that I administered to about over 700 of our Carnegie kids. So a big majority of the students responded. And as you can see here, like 340, so almost half of our students are first generation. So colleges define this in different terms, but the most, I think, is this right, Ms. Galloway? But the pretty much a very typical definition that most colleges take is that means that you are a student who neither of your parents graduated from a four-year college in the United States. So a lot of our students qualify. And we began this club in the pandemic, actually, and I started it really because while all of our kids here at Carnegie are GT, not all of them are equally prepared. And I find that a lot of my students come in not as well prepared and they have an imposter syndrome. And then they are afraid to ask for help. So there's a lot of help, especially these days, available at Carnegie, like Ms. Galloway. But they're afraid that by asking for help, it's kind of an admission that they don't belong here. In particular, first generations need special support to navigate Carnegie and especially the college journey. And so I remember after my first year teaching here, there was an NHS meeting, and a bunch of my little buddies, my homeroom kids, went to the NHS meeting, and they came back just crestfallen, and they were completely upset because it turned out that while they'd been working, a lot of them had been working hard on their grades, they didn't realize that they needed leadership in order to apply for NHS. And so First Gen Alliance is really designed to be a support system for kids so that they don't feel alone, so that they get comfortable looking for help, and to fill in those gaps that students might have if their parents haven't been to a four-year school. So if you want to switch to the next slide, um, this year, the club has just been growing like a band. It's been quite a wonderful thing. We have a really wonderful cabinet. You can see them here on the right, and the club is over 90 members. Over this year, what we've done is we've actually used the trip as an incentive scheme to get the kids to come to the meetings. And at the meetings, they're learning all kinds of things that they need. We also started the year with a First Gen Alliance Discovery Camp. So that was actually held during the math and English camps. And it was a full day. We had a wonderful speaker, Javier Rodriguez, who's an alumni who's attending the University of Chicago, came and spoke to the kids about things. And then our wonderful cabinet talked about all of the opportunities that they were pursuing. We then have a mentor-mentee buddy system for the kids, which is great for the mentors because it gives them leadership experience. And some of our kids as juniors and seniors in first gen don't have as much leadership experience, so it's really good for them. And then, of course, it's really good for the freshmen and the sophomores who need a buddy to help them navigate things. We then had Fish Week. And so we spent a week helping the kids get to know each other. We decorated lockers, we made friendship bracelets, we had a water balloon fight and an egg hunt and twin days. We did a bunch of things. And this is all to get them coming to meetings and listening to our speakers. So learning about imposter syndrome, hearing from Ms. Galloway as she gives an overview of the college admission process and answers those scary questions that our juniors and seniors have. We also have so we've had a lot of speakers come and they've learned about things like we try to leverage. So if we've got members who are Atlas Scholars, who are part of Emerge, then they not only learn from those programs, but they then come and teach the other kids about them. So it's really, I think it's kind of wonderful. So we've had a point system this year. If you look at the picture from last year, this is the annual college trip. And we've been able to do this. This will be the third year, and it is kind of a massive undertaking, just getting the paperwork and getting all the money raised. We want to make sure that the kids who need the trip most are able to attend. So the help of the PTO is just amazing. This year, the hotels were horribly expensive, and I'm deeply sorry about that. Unfortunately, the district has put a lot of really strict rules about when we can go, and we also don't want these kids to miss too much school, so we always want to go on a day that we already have one day off, so the kids are only missing one day. And so when we had done all of that, the February 13th and 14th was really the only day that we were allowed to go, and that unfortunately is the same time as a very popular conference in San Antonio, so that drove up the price of the hotels. My students raised a ton of money themselves, so don't worry that they're not contributing. They did extensive snack sales and ended up raising $2,800. They've also received some grant money, so we're paying for the charter buses as well and all those other things. Um, and the last thing I want to say is just the last slide. This is something that I think is really cool. So what you're doing when you support us is you're really building a lasting legacy here. So uh, these kids who participate in the club and the kids who become officers especially end up getting all kinds of opportunities and spreading that good fortune to other people. So I don't know if you remember the wonderful Enku last year. So because he was one of our officers, and he really didn't have any other leadership experience except he was a soccer player as well. And his GPA was fine, but by Carnegie standards, it wasn't anything special. But it was really his experience working with the club. He was able to write an essay about it, and that got him a $100,000 scholarship, because the Jack Grayson Scholarship really focuses on leadership and giving back to the community here. We also got to have First Gen Cougs, and that's an organization at the University of Houston. A bunch of their members came out and talked to our students this year. And what makes me really excited about this is this organization was started by a former president of First Gen Alliance. So she started First Gen Cougs over at U of H, and she actually now works in the student services office. So she gets paid to run that organization. And so it's wonderful that the good things that are happening at Carnegie are spreading to other schools as well. So I cannot say how incredibly grateful I am. This trip stresses me out, and having the money to take everybody is always something that I'm really anxious about. So you guys coming through is just, it's astonishing and wonderful. And I know how hard you work to do it. And so we're deeply grateful. Okay. And I've been talking a long time, and I know you have a lot to cover.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much to all the teachers that actually participate in this and lead this initiative. From everything I've heard, it's just a fabulous opportunity for our students. And I actually do see a question in the chat that was asking why this couldn't be expanded to all students. So I know that there are parents that are deeply appreciative of what you're doing and would appreciate even more. And I want to say that the ask from the PTO was unanimously approved. And it's definitely something that we all can get behind. Our kids going to college is just a wonderful, next step from their school journey. So thank you very much.
If you want me to answer that question,
Yeah, sure.
So I kind of started this college trip because before I came to Carnegie, I was working at a Yes Prep. And one of the things that the charter, so Yes Prep is committed to, is they fund a trip like this for every student every year. And so they start off with a sort of general one, very similar to this for the freshmen, and then it becomes more targeted as they move up. I think it is phenomenal, but that is something that is sponsored at the district level. And so it's, I'm sure, a matter of money. I'm sure that Mr. Moss would love to do this for every student. 46 kids is really all I have capacity for. That's one bus. And it's, it's a lot, but I think it's wonderful. And any ways I can partner with you guys to expand this opportunity to everybody. It's really a matter of urgency. So these are the kids who really, really need it. Oh, and one last thing that I did want to say is there has been research, and the number one indicator of whether or not a first gen student is going to go to a four-year college is whether or not they've ever set foot on a college campus. And so this is really breaking down an important barrier for these kids.
That's incredible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Haney and Ms. Galloway.